start by loosening this outlet body. We're going to take this apart and show you the maintenance on the check valve inlet and outlet poppets, and also change the high pressure seals. So we need a dead blow hammer and a spanner wrench, and we'll put in the holes on the end cap here. Loosen that up, and we can give it a few turns here. The check valve is starting to come out with the end cap. If it's not, we can use our 1 1/4 wrench and move it out as we go there. We continue to turn the end cap. And this is just getting the check valve out of the cylinder and the seal. And we're out, so we'll go ahead and bring it all the way off. Cap and check valve assembly out. We take the outlet body off. And then we push the main body out. And the check valve is ready to get lapped. We'll inspect the surfaces for any damage that's occurred during running, and we will lap them. Now we will take off our high pressure cylinder. Get our cylinder wrench, put on the cylinder, break it free, turn it the rest of the way out by hand. Cylinders off here. I'd like to show how to take these high pressure seals out. We use our high pressure seal installation tool, but it's also a removal tool if we use the small end. So we put it into the high pressure seal. We'll hold the cylinder up just a little bit off the table. Hit it with the hammer. Now our seal's out of that end. The backup sleeve wants to come out, but we'll leave it in, and we'll turn it over. Use our tool again with the small end, put it on the backup sleeve, and hold our cylinder up off the table. And we're out. Now we can let that backup sleeve come out. And we'll move over to the check valve. We'll just get our 1 1/4 wrench and hold it on the end. Out and remove the poppet housing and pop it off the top of this check valve. And then we'll want to clean these up and check these sealing surfaces and also the surface on this inlet poppet for any damage. And we will lap those. After we have the high pressure cylinders off here, we want to clean the ends up and inspect them. Sometimes high pressure cylinders get out of round on this end due to the seal moving. A good way to check your high pressure cylinder is to take a new hoop ring and drop in here before you start installing your other seals and fit it in the hole. See how much of it you can fit in there just using your fingers. If you can fit more than 3/4 of this hoop ring down in the cylinder just using your fingers, then it's time to start thinking about a new cylinder. It's not that you necessarily need to buy one right away, but you're getting close. What happens is the end of the cylinder gets enlarged and your high pressure seals start to move inside of the cylinder, and that is making your cylinder larger and larger, but at the same time your high pressure seals aren't lasting as long. This high pressure seal fits over here, and the hoop is going to be riding like so. And this, of course, is in the cylinder. So as this is pressurizing, depressurizing, it's pounding on this, and the hoop ring is going to wear a ditch around this check valve. And when this ditch gets to be 20 thou or deeper, we need to think about replacing this check valve, because what's happening is that ditch is allowing the seal to move on here, which is enlarging the hole on this end of the high pressure cylinder. So just some things to look for when you take things apart. So we have the check valve taken apart here and cleaned up. We're going to start off, we're going to look at the surfaces here. This one looks pretty good, but we're going to want to look for any chips around this hole here, and the same on this inlet poppet. This is going to mount over the hole. This is where inlet water comes in to fill the high pressure cylinder. So over time these are going to wear out and dish this surface here, and it needs to be flattened out. And to do that, we use sandpaper and a granite block, a piece of glass will work also, anything that's perfectly smooth. And we're going to start off by using a little 320 grit sandpaper. I'll put a little oil on this block here to help hold the sandpaper in place. So the 320 is going to help us get rid of any blemishes that we have to begin with. We'll put some water on the sandpaper. Let me hold the check valve as flat as we can on the paper and do a figure 8 motion here. I like to do 3 or 4 figure 8s and then turn it a half a turn and then continue on, just in case I'm a little bit heavy on one side and I'm not realizing it. So we'll do the figure 8s and then inspect it. I'm going to look across that surface for any low spots. Make sure that maybe we've lapped out all of the dings that we've seen around this hole. If it was dished out from running for a long time, we want to get that dish out of there so this is perfectly flat. So we'll do it a little more here. Just figure 8s, holding it as flat as we can. We'll turn it a half a turn. Continue. This one's looking very good, so we'll set it aside and go to the next piece here, the inlet poppet, which meets up with the check valve here. And this closes off when the intensifier pressurizes the water on this side, so we want to have a good sealing surface here so the high pressure water can't go back out our inlet hose. So hold this one in your fingers as best you can. And also figure 8. Start off doing it lightly until you get the feel for it. And then also I like to turn it a half a turn in case I'm getting heavy on one side. Check it and make sure we have a consistent look across the whole surface there. Go just a little bit more. Ready for our next step. We'll go to the poppet landing, and this meets up with the outlet poppet here. So we want to look at this surface and make sure it's nice and flat also. So also we figure 8 this one, and turn it a half a turn. Some more figure 8s. It. This is looking good, but maybe just a little more. Half a turn. generally speaking, if your intensifier has been running for 400 or 500 hours and you're working on these check valves, it's going to take you a bit longer than it's taking me here today. The next piece in these check valves is the outlet poppet. We don't recommend lapping these because they're so small and they're hard to keep flat. So we would throw this one away and buy a new one. Is the best route to go for that one. So once we have a good finish from our figure 8 on all these parts, we will change from 320 grit sandpaper to 600. Now we have 600 grit sandpaper back on our lapping block, and we're going to go through all these parts and figure 8 them again here. We'll start with the check valve main body. And this finer grit paper is just to clean them up the last little bit, and it's going to show us any blemishes or imperfections that we weren't able to see after our 320. So we'll take a look at these. This one looks pretty good. Go to the poppet landing. Figure 8 this guy a few times. Also, it looks good. It's ready for our cross hatching. We'll hit our inlet poppet. Looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and take this 600 off and go back to 320 for our final cross hatch. And all our figure 8s are done, and we're going to cross hatch on here. And the cross hatching will show us if we have any imperfections there. So I hold it as flat as I can, pull it straight towards me, and then turn it to 90 degrees, go back to the top of the paper, and pull it straight towards me again. This one looks good. You can clean this solvent tank or throw it out real quick. Sure that you don't have any sandpaper grit left on that. Also the same with the outlet poppet landing. Pull it straight towards us, turn it 90 degrees, pull it straight towards us. And this one also looks very good. Then next will be the inlet poppet. Hold it in our fingers, straight towards us, turn it 90 degrees, straight towards us. So these things are lapped and ready to go. We'll assume this is a new outlet poppet, and we'll go ahead and assemble this. We'll move our lapping block aside here. And for our assembly, we've already cleaned our parts, and we start by setting our inlet poppet over the inlet water hole. Next, our inlet poppet housing. It's got a small tab on here, a dowel that will fit into this hole, and once the screw's in, that keeps it from moving, so that the housing keeps the inlet poppet right over the hole where it's supposed to be. Next we have the screw. Our outlet, our high pressure water is going to go out the center of this screw. So we need some Loctite 242, just a very small amount. That might be a little much, so we'll rub a little bit off. This is a good amount there. If we get too much Loctite on there, and it balls up on the top of the threads as we're putting it in. It has a possibility of making its way over and getting underneath the inlet poppet. That'll cause it to stay open, start leaking. The problem will get larger from there. So just a small amount of Loctite. And you just hold the check valve body in your hand and tighten this down. Torque on this is 5 foot-pounds, so it's not very much. The Loctite is going to ensure that it stays in for us. The next step is putting the outlet landing in. We have some blue goop here. And we want to coat the back side of this. The flat side is going to stay out. This curved side that we blue gooped will go in. So it goes in first. We'll push it in. Our next step is to get the outlet body. We're going to put our spring on here with the big end facing up. And you can look on the back side of the outlet poppet here. And it's the same size as the spring, so we know that we're in the right way. So I drop the spring in, and then the poppet. Make sure that it's moving freely. And we've already blue gooped these threads, so it's ready to go in. That hand tight for now. We'll tighten it when we assemble it in the intensifier. Next, we're going to use some food grade lube, which comes in these little packets, but I have it in a syringe here. I'm going to put it in the O-ring groove. Put on our O-rings. I like to put it in the first groove and then install this O-ring all the way down. That way I'm not dragging grease across the whole thing here. Just smear our food grade around on that. We'll hit the next groove with some food grade lube. This is our check valve assembly. It's ready to be installed into the intensifier. We're going to start off the high load piston. When you take these out, we just cut these bands off and get rid of them. Pull the seals out of the centers here. So then we've cleaned up the piston. We're going to put our new seal kit in. Start off by the T-seal here. I'm going to put some oil on it. It's hydraulic oil. Smear it around. And we get it down in the groove on this piston. So it's down in there. It's not twisted. We're going to have these little T-seal retainers, one on the top and one on the bottom. Make sure that these pieces where they come together, the angle lines up correctly and not like that. Now we're back to the piston here. This one's going to go in on top of the T-seal. It's in. Then I turn it half a turn there. And this one's going to go on the bottom. Started, work it around with my finger. And our T-seal is in, and the retainers also are in. Next, take one of our outer wear bands, put in the first groove, and this is our energizer ring. This goes in the center, rubber piece. And we use our wear band just as a spacer to get us over that first groove. Now our wear band's on. Now I have some hot water over here. It's very hot actually. And we drop the middle ring into the hot water to let it expand and soften. So we'll get it out of the water. And then push it on with our thumbs. So we got it started. Down over our wear band. And now we have these retainers for the center ring. One side is rounded, one side is flat. We want the rounded side to face the center band. Got that on. Again, the rounded side to face the center band. And where it's split, we'll put those on opposite of each other. So those are on. You see the center band still somewhat loose there from being in the hot water. Take a ring compressor and put over it, and then tighten it down and let it sit for 1 minute until that band reforms to what it was when we started. It's been a minute. Our center band is nice and formed back to its original shape there. The retainers look good. So now we just put our wear bands on. And our piston is ready to go. Please keep in mind, I only showed you to put the T-seal in on one side, but another T-seal does go in on the other side also. So we'll take our piston assembly that we just made and put our new rings on here. Set it on our work stand. Get one of our ceramic plungers here. When we're putting these back together, we just want to look over these real close for any pitting or scratching. Anything that makes them not smooth is a problem. So typically they're fine, but we got to look at them. Sometimes these change color a little bit also. Don't worry about color change. The only thing that matters is that these are smooth. I'm going to put these in. Let's put some hydraulic oil on this end. Push it in down on our T-seal there. Next will be plunger retainer. Goes down there. We got a big snap ring that goes on. Make sure we're down in the groove, snapped in. I like to squeeze it just a little and turn it. Make sure we're in the groove. We'll do our other plunger. Push it in, plunger retainer, and then our snap ring, the groove, one turn, and it is in. Next, we have our low pressure cylinder. We're going to set it on our table. On the intensifier work stand, we have a hole in the center cut out there, and that's for installing this piston plunger assembly. We'll start out by cleaning the inside of this cylinder. On new ones, it comes with a rust inhibitor, so we want to clean that out. Using just some hydraulic oil, we'll break it down and you can wipe it clean. So once it's clean, we'll put some hydraulic oil in there, smear it around, give us some lubrication for our piston when it goes in. We'll set her down there, get some oil on our chamfered edge. piston rings. We're ready to go in and try and line these up so they're 180 degrees opposite of each other. Now we'll just squeeze the wear band here so it will go inside of this low pressure cylinder. Sit it down in there until we get to the center band. And we'll hold the top wear band so as we go in, it will go into the cylinder also. Dead blow hammer, and we're gonna knock it in. Aside for now. Putting this piston plunger into the center of that barrel just makes it easier for assembly later. Next we have our end bells. And we have a left and a right, and this is due to the oil passages on top, so we always need a left and a right. We're going to start by putting in the oil seal in the center here. This is going to ride on the plunger and keep oil into the cylinder. Some hydraulic oil on these. And push them in all the way down until they bottom out. And when you're looking at these, this grooved part needs to be facing towards the hydraulic cylinder so that it flares these edges out when it's pressurized. So some more hydraulic oil on this one. Push it in until it bottoms out. And this is a spacer that goes between the snap ring and the oil seal. It goes in either direction. Is our snap ring to hold the seal in. And again, I like to squeeze it just a little bit and spin it to make sure that it's in the groove all the way. Same on this one. So those are in. Next we have our outer O-rings here. We have an O-ring and a backup ring, and this seals the inner diameter low pressure cylinder. So some oil on these also. The backup ring is cupped, and the cupped part needs to face the O-ring, so the flat part is going to go down when we're looking at the end bell this way. With some oil on the O-ring. And it goes on top of the backup ring. So looking at it from the top down, our O-ring needs to be first and our backup ring behind it. Some more oil on here. Do the right hand end bell. Are ready to put up on this intensifier workbench. We'll use some bolts here. We'll use these holes, line up with the holes on the bottom side of the end bell. And we just go hand tight on these. Now we're ready to put piston, plunger, and cylinder onto this end bell. And to do that, I'm going to put a bit more oil on these O-rings here. Smear around. Make sure we got some oil on the inside of that oil seal. And go for some oil on the inside of our low pressure cylinder. Want to hold it as square as we can as we go into the oil seal. Push it in. Then we meet up with the O-rings. Come over here and pull the low pressure cylinder all the way on until it meets up with the end bell. And it will snap over the O-rings. Then we know that the O-rings are inside here and not getting squished. Same procedure with the other side. Our right end bell. Oil these O-rings. Make sure we have some oil on our oil seal. Some oil. Low pressure cylinder. And again, we just want to hold it as straight as we can. Onto the plunger, and up to the barrel, and pull it all the way on. So now this is all butted up to one another. We know our O-rings aren't pinched. Now we'll bolt this end down. Again, just hand tied is good. We want these things to be able to move together if it needs to when we put the tie rods in. Purpose of bolting this down to this little table here is to keep these end bells parallel with one another. When we put the manifold on, they must be parallel so the manifold fits flat on these oil passages here, or they will leak. Next we have our tie rods. We're going to hold this center section together. When we take them all apart, these tie rods are made with fewer amount of threads on one end. So I always like to take our nut and put onto the threads, short end threads, and bottom it all the way out down to there. And that way when we get it all torqued up and everything looks the same, we have the same amount of thread showing on both ends of the tie rod. We're going to go ahead and put these in here. And we'll put just a dab of oil on each. That's more than a dab, but it'll work. As long as we got some oil on each of these threads, so we get a consistent torque when we bring these down. Up until the nuts touch the end bells here, and then we'll start our torquing. foot-pounds. I'm just going to go around, probably not too far off. We do a crisscross pattern on these. So we're bringing it down square. Last one here is 120 foot-pounds. Okay, now I'm just going to go right around and make sure nothing's changed and moved on me. We got our high pressure cylinders here, also our high pressure seals. Start off with our high pressure seals, putting the red O-rings on them. And these O-rings are pre-lubricated, so we don't have to put anything else on them. We just snap them into the groove here, and they're ready to install. So that's all 4 of them. We're going to put them in on a static end first here, and the reason we do that is because it's flat on this end. If we were to start and put our seal in on this end first, when we flip it over, if we put the opposite seal in, it will knock that cylinder, seal out that side of the cylinder. So we'll take our high pressure seal installation tool, screw on the static end here. It's a good idea to put your finger down inside there and make sure there's a nice transition into the cylinder. This piece is tapered, so it will squeeze the seal and the hoop ring as it goes in. So if we have this in upside down, you can feel quite a ledge in there. So we have this a nice transition. I put this high pressure seal with O-ring in there, as square as I can, and I just use this tool to push it in by hand. It goes in very easy. And then the hoop goes in next, and it has a taper on one side that fits over the high pressure seal, so it can only go on one way. Try to put it on the other way, it doesn't fit down over the seal at all. So, with our taper looking down at the seal, I put it in here as square as I can. I put my tool on it, make sure that it's still square, and it's in. We can unthread this, take it off, and it should look like that, flush with the end of the cylinder. So we'll go ahead and do this next one. Got a nice transition going in there. High pressure seal with O-ring. Push it in by hand. And our hoop with the taper looking down. Square it up a little. flip these over. We use this big washer here just as a flat surface to put it on, so we don't knock that seal back out when we install this one on the opposite end. Next goes in our backup sleeve. No lubrication on this, it just goes in dry. So that goes down in there. Then we use our installation tool again. You can check and make sure that it's on correctly. Got a nice smooth transition there. Again, the high pressure seal by hand. And our hoop ring. And it's in the backup sleeve is going to have a bit of free play in there, and that is acceptable. The free play is meant for seal expansion, so it needs to be there. So don't worry about that. Flip this one over, backup sleeve in. Pressure seal. You can see here, this is going to go on over the plunger, and this is where the buttress rides here. So this is what holds the high pressure seal in place on this end. New buttresses go on. This is a very tight tolerance, so it should just barely wiggle when you put a new one on there. Alright, push it all the way into the end bell. Next, we're going to blue-goop the threads on the cylinder. Washer here. Screw this part of the tool on. What this is going to do is hold the seals in place as we push it on there. So that's ready to go on. And then we take a rag and twist up here and put over the plunger. This is just so if we're pushing on the cylinder and it won't go, and then it goes. This is just to prevent the threads from running into the threads on the end bell. So we just hold this as square as we can and push it onto the plunger. The high pressure seal, you will see it moves down into the cylinder slightly, and that is acceptable. It will reposition itself when we start running it. So now we just turn it in. We'll take this off. So our next step will be some blue loop on the other threads here. Smooth that around with my finger. And then on the end, around this high pressure seal, we just have to get the surface where the check valve is going to meet up here. It's going to go in like that. And we just want where this surface meets up with the cylinder to have some blue goop on there. So next, we get our end cap. This is the check valve that we made earlier. Some blue goop around the back side of this shoulder here where it's going to meet up with the end cap. Take out the outlet body. Put it in from the threaded side and push it in until she bottoms out. Tip it up just a little bit as I put the outlet body in so the poppet doesn't fall out. And then we'll thread this on. Turn this in until I feel the check valve starting to go into the seal, and then come out and push it straight in. And the thought behind that is we would rather have the check valve push straight in and stay stationary in the seal rather than turning in with the end cap. Now we have this as our fitting for a quick disconnect. I'm going to put it in real quick here, just so we can position our check valve. Install the shift pins. This is the shift pin tool. Very important for getting these in. There's other ways to do it, but this is by far the easiest. We'll start off by the O-rings here. This is for taking shift pins out. If the shift pin is stuck in the end belt, you can insert this into the hole, and the O-rings in combination with the oil that's in the hole will create a suction. And you pull it out quickly, and then it will pull the shift pin out of its hole, and it will be laying down in that bore. You can reach in with an Allen wrench and drag it out. For installing the shift pins, we lay the pin down in the groove there, and we get a small Allen key and put behind it, lay it down in the groove. So what we do, this is going to go in the hole. And then we're going to turn this while holding a little bit of pressure inward on the Allen key until we find the hole in the end bell, and then we'll push it all the way in. So keep it upright so it doesn't fall out. Push it all the way in. Hold a little pressure on the Allen key. Turn it. Now it went in. It's all the way into the end bell now. I like to keep holding pressure on it while I take this out, and then I know that the shift pin has stayed in there. So next step is our shift actuator. The way this setup works is the shift pin that we just installed there is going to get pushed by the piston over, and it's going to push on here. that's going to get pushed into this sensor housing. The magnet on the end here will make the switch react. So, important to have this outer spring over it. This piece in first, so the magnet is looking at you once it's in. We just push it in. Next on our sensor, just want to put a little bit of oil on the O-rings there. Get it in there, push it in. You may have to hold it with your thumb while you put the screw in. Another screw. Tighten them with the Allen key. That's it. Here we have the shift sensor out of the intensifier and also the shift actuator, and we want to show you how to diagnose a problem with the shift sensor. And how we do that is take the sensor out and we leave the actuator out. Just set it up here, and this is right front as labeled on the print. So for that, we would go around to the electrical cabinet there and look at the light on the PLC that is labeled 01 on the input bank. And right now, with the actuator out, the light should be on. If the actuator is out like this and the light is not on input 1, then that means we're not getting the signal all the way back to the PLC that we need to be seen. How it should work is with the actuator out, we should have a light down there on right now on input 1. When we take this actuator with the magnet side and drop it into the sensor, we should see the light go off. And this just simulates the piston coming over, hitting it, pushing it into the hole, and then it comes